Hello everyone, welcome to the Tech Tuesdays webinar on an introduction to cloud-based data management. I am Vrinda Anil and I'll be hosting today's webinar. This session is intended for all IICS customers who want wizard-based interface, saving time and money by eliminating the complexities of populating Salesforce sandboxes. Today's presenter will be Raghavendra, an Informatica veteran handling Power Center and IICS products for over 13 years, and also have been working on data integration using on-premise and cloud products. Before we start off, here are some housekeeping tips. Today's webinar, as usual, is going to be for 1 hour. That includes a 45 minutes webcast, and we'll move over to live session for answering your queries for 15 minutes. All participants will be muted so that the presenter will be able to present without any interruptions. Your questions can be submitted through the Q&A section and we will be addressing them to the end of the presentation. The webinar will be recorded and will be available in the Informatica Support YouTube channel and the Success portal. The link will also be emailed to you. Please set aside some time to complete the post-webinar survey and provide your feedback and suggestions for upcoming topics for the Tech Tuesdays webinar. The Tech Tuesdays webinar is a webinar series introduced within the Success portal. The Informatica Success portal is a micro-learning platform that offers free and unlimited learning to all registered users. The Success portal lists your success offerings, your customer success manager information, bookings available in the Ask an Expert session, and customized recommendation and content. Our new intelligent virtual assistant Diana is available in the Success portal for all our cloud customers. Over to you, Raghavendra. Thank you.
Welcome everyone. My name is Raghavendra Kinera, working as Principal Customer Success Technologist with Informatica. In today's webinar, we will discuss current approaches to manage data refresh of Salesforce sandboxes, IICS Cloud Test Data Management, applying data masking rules and configuring data subsetting, achieving consistent data masking outputs, schedule options, data masking transformation for CDI, and then we will open the floor for any Q&A. So these are the available sandbox types from Salesforce: full sandbox, partial sandbox, dev pro sandbox, and dev sandbox, along with their own refresh intervals, storage and limitations, and what sort of data is copied over from production org. As for the current approaches, we can use free data loaders or export import of the data from objects and so forth. However, this will require you to have fairly good understanding of Salesforce's SOQL language and also ability to reconcile relationships among various objects, manually manipulating the files. So Informatica Cloud masking offerings, so we have two. One is Cloud Test Data Management and Cloud Masking. The second option is Data Masking for Data Integration, which are going to be discussed in this session. Informatica's Cloud Test Data Management is designed for provisioning secure and non-production environments, and this is also a purpose-built wizard, which are easy to build, which saves time and money by eliminating complexities of populating Salesforce sandboxes with the right subset of data to completely secure sensitive information. This can also be used by Salesforce administrators or QA engineers to mask and copy the data that they require for their purposes. Informatica Cloud Test Data Management also makes reconciliation of relationships simple by allowing the use of external IDs, unique indexes, lookups as keys to reconcile records of related objects. And the right part of this slide shows the data masking transformation, which is available in Cloud Mapping Designer for all other supported sources. Test data management is only for Salesforce. Consistent masking is achieved using the same set of masking techniques, which we will deal with at a later point in time. So data masking and subset of Salesforce data. So this eliminates non-compliance with different regulations, whether they be HIPAA, GDPR, PCI, by providing out-of-the-box configurable masking algorithms to anonymize common sensitive data elements. This will also ensure data privacy, creates test data sets for dev sandboxes by populating empty sandboxes with referentially intact data sets. It also helps in rationalizing existing SFDC investments and saves cost of additional full sandbox copies. This is a high-level architecture of Informatica Cloud test data management. So this uses standard API and bulk API of Salesforce for secure communications, which is managed by the Informatica platform. And these are the masking techniques that are available and that we have discussed, most of the common ones that we can use. While creating a data masking task, the first step is to choose or to select the source objects from your Salesforce production instance, let's say. So single object, meaning which will not have any related objects and so forth. You choose multiple objects when there is an explicit relationship defined in Salesforce. For example, account is related to a given opportunity and a contact. And contact in turn is related to case objects. So if you have multiple source objects, you can also choose an object and add related parent, child, and a self-referencing objects also manually. All of this can be done from the source page. And coming to schema graph, this is basically your graphical representation of relationships between multiple source objects in a mapping task. Basically a visual representation of multiple source objects, relationships among them, and the assignments between one another. The file itself can be downloaded with a dot extension, and this can be opened or visualized using GraphViz, Canvas, Grappa, and Beluging. Moving on, once you have configured the source objects, we now have to configure the target objects. You will have, again, two factors to consider, whether you're doing an in-place masking or an in-stream masking. In-place masking in the sense your source instance and the target instance is one and the same. In this scenario, only one operation is possible, which is update. The other option is your source Salesforce instance is different to your target Salesforce instance. This is a perfect example of copying the data or moving the data from your prod instance to, let's say, your test or dev instance of Salesforce. In this case, all the other operations are possible, whether they are insert, update, and upsert operations. So refresh fields, this is more to do with whenever there is a change in metadata, you would want to refresh it. This refresh can happen when there is connection properties changes or metadata in Salesforce sources and targets as well. This will be dealt more in the following slide. The next one is validation reports. This task, when you click on this on the target page, task validates whether the fields are visible in the source and targets, the schema is proper, and then creates a validation report in a ASCII text format. It also lists all the mandatory relationships, fields, field and relationship mismatch between the sources and targets. Or this can also be used to fix any of the issues that you see with the mandatory fields, right? And all the non-mandatory fields which are missing or which have issues with, they will be set as warning messages. And the report by itself will contain object name, which is basically your source and target object. Field name, the name of the field in the source or the target object that has an issue. The data type of the field and the relationship that is not present in the source or the target. So this is essentially how infer the validation report and go about fixing any of the issues, either they are warning messages or errors. Coming to refresh of the metadata. So let's say you have created a masking task a month or two ago, and since that time there have been few changes, let's say in your Salesforce objects. Now, unless you add those let's say you might have also have deleted objects or deleted fields also. So this has to be reflected in your task, right? Otherwise, it could fail, and so, especially if you run this mapping task in a regular intervals and so forth, the metadata imported should be latest for it to really work in a consistent manner. So there are two options again for you how to refresh and so forth. There is also a tip at the end of it. So the first option is to refresh the metadata without actually editing of the task. This can be done via the Explorer page. When you do this, it runs a separate job to refresh the metadata job, and if the refresh of this metadata job fails at any point in time, the metadata doesn't get updated, so that the source metadata and the target metadata remain consistent before you actually chose this option. The second option is actually you editing the masking task. So you manually edit the task and say refresh all the source and target fields, and then it will refresh everything over. However, you cannot view the progress of the job because it doesn't run as a separate refresh job. So you will have to continue to create or update and save the masking tasks after the refresh finishes. This could take some time based on the number of objects and the size of the metadata and so forth. So the tip here, or the best practice here, is if you have multiple masking tasks where you would need to do this refresh of the metadata, then obviously you would want to do it without actually editing the task. That way it runs its own instance, and also you can track the job's progress and so forth. The next topic that we are going to deal with is staging database. So this is required to perform data subset operations. We will see what data subset operations are in the next slides and how do we configure those subset operations and so forth. We would require a database which will hold the stage record IDs, the data subsets, or the subset of the data. For simple entities, the junction objects, multipaths and lookup based relationships, as well as the masking fields. The database installer itself is packaged within the secure agent. You can run the H2 package installer to install the staging connection. Again, you would have to make sure that this H2 staging database is up and running prior to starting the data masking task. Two ways of doing this: one from the masking task schedule page, and the second option is to manually run the H2 startup script itself. And the startup script, you can find it in your installation, secure agent installation directory, data integration server, the latest version that you see, IICS main, Tomcat, and CMask. There you would see the h2_start.bat. When we look at data subsetting, what it means is you can extract a subset of data by incorporating some filters on the data set itself. Like, let's say if I'm looking for specific accounts, this can also do pattern matching also. So let's say I'm looking for a specific accounts which start with United or which start with Informatica, let's say. I can say Informatica percent and then pull it out only for accounts or the records from the accounts table which match to this particular pattern. This is essentially your data subset. The masking task, when you do the data subset, it needs to maintain the primary key foreign key relationships in the subset of the data so that it can reconcile the object relationships in the subset of data. So it's quite possible, and we can come to it when we are doing the demo and how to configure the relationship behavior and so forth. We will see. In order for it to reconcile the object relationships properly, it sometimes happens that instead of, let's say, there are only two particular records that you are interested in, it could happen that you are extracting more than two records and then go about giving you the right kind of data subset. This can be viewed via the schema diagram which we have shown you in the sources page also, source configuration page also, which is nothing but your graphical representation of how your relationships between the source objects that you have chosen. You can also view the number of join operations that are required to compute a subset operation. All this essentially means, let's say I have account, opportunity, and account, contact, and case, let's say, as my source objects. So if we don't apply any filter, the default path is it will extract all the records from account table. Then it will go to find the related records from contact, and then from contact, since contact is a parent for case, it will then try to get all the related case details for those contacts which we are looking for in the account. And this can also be filtered. That way the number of records that are retrieved are smaller and also can fit in your storage limitations for sandboxes. We can configure data subset operations or options using data filter. This is where you would apply either a simple or an advanced data filter for an object. You can also apply multiple filters on the same object, or you can add an advanced filter in a task, right? And it can also be a parameter file or a parameter filter value can be provided with a parameter file, and mention the file name in the task. The next one is the relationship behavior. So you can configure the relationships themselves when you select multiple source objects, right? The data subset operations selects all the parent records for an object to maintain the referential integrity, and the task selects the child record if you configure to include the child objects. The third option is subset statistics itself. This will help you in estimating and evaluating your target size based on the data subset filters that you might have applied and so forth, right? If the estimated target size is large, then you will have to update the task and estimate the subset again, and this will have to continue until, or iteration has to continue until the estimated target size is lower than the threshold of your sandbox operation. We will move on to the application of masking rules, the fields of your source objects that you have chosen and all that. So you can select a rule from a list, basically a drop down, based on the data type of the source field, length field type, label, etc. from target connection. The same thing will happen for multiple source objects. You will have to first choose the source object that you're interested in. The fields pick up the attributes and then start applying the masking rules for the respective fields that you want to apply the masking rules for. And talking about masking rules, could be applied in one of three ways. Masking rule assignments is the first one. This you can apply from the masking page to mask the fields. You can also choose the default masking rules for the source objects for default assignments, and this goes by the field data type. And the second option is you can create passive maplets to perform masking task. Basically, map the source fields to the input fields of the maplet and map the output fields to target fields. That's how it goes. And you can have as many maplets as you want in the masking task here. And the third one is the target fields, wherein this will list out all the common and missing mandatory fields in the masking page. Common fields are the ones that are available in both source and target. You can assign the masking rules to all the common fields. The missing mandatory fields are the ones that are mandatory in target but are not available in the source Salesforce instance. For this, you will have to either use an expression or provide a value using an expression builder. This can be custom field that you have added to your, let's say, test environment, but it's not there in your production environment. In this case, you would need to provide it an appropriate value before you can do this. The next one that we are going to discuss is about how to implement a data masking transformation for cloud data integration. This is for other sources. Let's say you have an Oracle production instance from which you want to bring data over to, let's say, dev or your test environment, while also applying masking rules and substitutions and etc. for credit cards, addresses, emails, and so forth. This is where this data masking transformation will come in handy. Suffice to say, this is only for Cloud Mapping Designer. So we have seen two tools from where we can apply this masking so far. One is the Informatica Cloud Test Data Management, and the immediate previous slide that we discussed is the utilizing the data masking transformation in Cloud Mapping Designer. The third and the fourth options are the on-prem test data management that we have, and you can also use or develop Power Center mappings that can contain data masking transformation. We can actually get a consistent output using all these four variations of tool sets, or the so long as we follow these four rules, right, or four guidelines. We have to use the same substitution rule for an attribute. Let's say trying to apply the masking rule on the name, so we will have to use the suitable substitution masking rule for this. And the masking rules themselves should use the same dictionaries. We will come to the dictionaries at the end of this slide. At this stage, we will have to use the same masking rules, or the masking rules that we are applying for this should use the same dictionaries. The repeatable option should be set to on, and the seed value should be the same across the different tool sets, right? Seed point is nothing but the point where you start generating the masked values. So if you have the dictionary file same, the substitution masking rule is same, with repeatable options set, you are guaranteed that the name attribute on which you are wanting to apply the data masking rule, irrespective of the tool that is used, you will end up with the same masked output. Now, this is the high-level architecture to achieve consistent data masking use cases. Right, the top one is where we are talking about the cloud test data management. The bottom portion is for all other different sources, which is test data management. Characteristics and features that differentiate these three products, or the three products that we have on masking. One is the on-prem solution, which is the test data management, the cloud test data management, and the dynamic data masking. Before going into the demo, we would go over the dictionary files for data masking. So when you start using the data masking, you will already see some built-in dictionary files in your installation directory, apps, data integration server, and data in directory structure. You can also create your own custom dictionary files also, and place them in the same directory structure. And those should have an extension of either a .txt or a .dic or a CSV. There is no limit on the maximum number of fields that can be present in a flat file dictionary. All the fields should have a header column, and the fields should be separated by comma. These are the rules. And the structure within the file must contain a sequential number and a value separated by a comma. So you can take a look at our existing default dictionary files so that you can build your own custom dictionary files. Again, it goes without saying in order for these dictionaries to support non-English characters, you would have to use the appropriate code pages and so forth when you are doing this. When we talk about masking rules, this is just a few of the common masking rules that we have. You can select any of them depending on what the source type is, and we have something called credit card masking. This basically masks your credit card information with a valid checksum. And email masking is also available. IP addresses masking is also available. Any key masking that you want to do, even that is also available. Phone numbers masking is available, which is important if you want to mask your contact related information. Social security numbers and social insurance numbers can also be masked. There is one other thing that you can do which is more common and applicable for dates, numerics, and string data types, which is random masking. You would want to randomly choose from a set of characters or numbers or dates to mask your source values. You can also mask your website information, let's say LinkedIn URLs. So these are some of the most common masking rules that you can apply. We are for the demo first, and then this is my original data in my Salesforce instance. I've taken multiple source objects here, and the objects that I have included are account, contacts, opportunities, and cases. And I have applied a filter or the data filter on the account, which is United Oil and Gas Corporation. The masking rules are simple, really. I want to mask the contact name, contact email ID, contact phone numbers in the contact related object. And when it comes to opportunities, I would want to mask the amount or the dollar amount at which the opportunity is valued at, and the close dates that I would want to mask. In the case related information, I would want to mask just the contact name at this juncture. This is the requirement for me. This is how I would choose my source object, and this is our second step essentially. The first step is where you define the masking task by the name, the location. The second step is where you configure your source, and here you have chosen the multiple so that use all this. You can click on the view schema to get the schema graph in the dot fashion and download it. This is data filters. I've applied a data filter on account and the name of account by the name of United Oil and Gas Corporation. You can apply as many simple filters as you want, or you can apply advanced filters also, and you can also apply on multiple objects, not just on account object as I'm showing it here. The most important one that I've told earlier that I will come to later is this relationship behavior. So the default traversal or the default path in which data gets to select the records essentially is, in this case, account is the parent for me, and to account I have flagged contact and opportunity as the child objects. Contact is again a parent for a case. This is how the tagging or the configuration you would have to do. Essentially, you are telling it which one is my parent in this and which were my child. So if you want to uncheck and remove a particular object from your selection criteria, you can do so. In this instance, it will traverse from account, apply the filter, get the records that are matching to United Oil and Gas Corp from account object in Salesforce, from my source Salesforce instance, and then goes to the contact table to retrieve all the records that are tagged to this particular account, let's say to this particular account, and it now takes all the contacts and goes to the case object to get all the cases that are related to the contact, right? And that's the reason why you see the join operations are also three. First one is the filter, and the join operation is on contact first, account to contact, and the second one is on account to contact, account to opportunity, and the third one is on contact to case. So that's how the join operations work. So applying the masking rules themselves is more or less straightforward. You choose the object that you want to apply the masking rules, and then choose the drop down to apply the most common substitutions masking rules that we have available. If you're wondering where do I configure the seed value, the repeatable options, and so forth, it's that configure button that is next to the masking rule. So once you click that, if you want to use a default dictionary or you want to use your own custom dictionary, and you would repeat the same thing for contact, case, and opportunity as well, because we would want to mask contact related information in contacts object as well as in case object in opportunity as well. Once you're done with applying all the masking rules, you will come to the schedule page. On the schedule page, we have talked about running the H2 database or the staging database before running the masking task. That's little above this page. I wanted to show the advanced Salesforce options. Advanced Salesforce options could be used to improve your data load performance. You might want to disable all your triggers, validation rules, etc. prior to you starting this task. You can re-enable all of those after the load completes. You can also use bulk API along with primary key chunking. Both of these options come in handy when you have large data volumes that you're trying to move across Salesforce instances. This is how my masked data looks like. If you see all my contact names, email IDs, the phone numbers are all masked. In opportunities object, I have amounts and data is also masked. When it comes to case objects, I have masked the contact name. If you see the contact name that is tagged to cases matches with your contact records in contacts, that way the data reconciliation process is maintaining and the associated relationships are also maintained properly. Floor is open for any Q&As.
Hey guys, we are open for question and answer session. You can post your questions in the Q&A box and we'll be answering your questions. Raghavendra, we have acquired a few questions from Matej. The first question was...
Yeah, go on. Hello.
I think Brenda dropped. So I think the first question she was going to ask was, for which countries except US are the, I think that says OOTD masking rules ready for, specifically many different national IDs in Europe countries, bank account numbers in Europe countries, etc. Hello. Is any of my speakers still on, or did you all drop?
Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah. There have been a few questions from Matej, Raghavendra. The question is, for which countries except US are the OOTB masking rules ready for? Specifically, many different national IDs in Europe countries, bank account numbers in Europe countries, etc.
Right. For this one, we don't have an answer on top of. Right. We don't have an answer for this. We will have to get back to them, or they can raise a GCS case for getting this sort of information.
So
as to which one they are looking.
Matej will
Can we
get back
download
to
this
you on that. Yes, sure.
Yeah.
There is another question from Krishnan. Where do you store data in cloud and how do we access in IICS?
So the file location itself is stored on IICS Secure Agent server location. Yeah, we will. If you want the exact path, we can send it over, or it's in the documentation as well. I believe it's in the data directory.
Okay. Thank you, Krishnan. And remark, unstructured data like data stored in PDFs or files.
At the moment, cloud TDM is only for Salesforce. You could use, although this is untested, you can probably go around the path of using intelligent structure discovery, and from there read it via the CDI mapping designer and approach the masking in that scenario.
Okay. Thank you, Mohammed, for asking the question. We are open for more questions from your side. Please post your questions in the Q&A box. We'll be answering them. We have still more time. Dr. Vindra, there was a previous question asked by Matej. Can you create your own advanced masking rules in cloud TDM?
Yeah, certainly. Using regular expressions, you can do that. Yes. I've answered to him only, so now the answer remains for all of them.
All right. Another question from him. Can you reuse masking rules which have already been created in on-premise TDM?
Right. So this should be possible. However, you would have to rebuild that logic in IICS CTDM, right?
Okay. Another question. How about the consistency between on-premise and cloud masking when you select both repeatable and unique options?
So this unique option is not available in CTDM. However, broadly, the 4 rules and guidelines have been discussed at the end of the webcast. So you would have to have the same substitution rules, same use or must have used the same dictionary file. Repeatable options should be switched on, and the same seed value between the different tool sets. Only then the consistent mask data output is guaranteed.
Okay. Another question from Krishnan is that IICS only for SFTs?
IICS CTDM is only for Salesforce, whereas the data masking transformation, which is another add-on item for you, that is for Cloud Mapping Designer and for all other sources which are supported by Cloud Data Integration.
Okay, thank you, Krishnan. Another question from Vipul. How should we get this enabled? Does it have some different subs?
So I lost you at the end of it, Vrinda. So I can read the question. So if you sure,
yeah,
go on.
Go on. How
so
should we
if
get
you
this enabled? Does it have some different subscriptions?
So if yes, different subscription. I'm thinking, Vipul, you're asking about the cloud CTDM. If it already shows in your licenses in administrator, it should already be present in your CTDM task. You can go ahead and create it. If not, please contact GCS or shipping. We will get it sorted.
Okay. Thank you, Vipul, for that question. We still have some time. We can post the box and we'll be there to answer your questions. Yeah. Another question from Krishnan Ratnendra. What is the difference between CDM and normal data masking?
So I suppose it's a typo CTDM. I think CTDM is only for Salesforce instances. The normal data masking, I'm also assuming that you are intending towards data masking transformation. This is for all other sources which are supported by cloud data integration. That's another microservice that we have.
Okay. Thank you, Krishnan. Another question from Rita. Is the recording available for reference? Yes, we will be posting the recording in the Informatica Support YouTube channel, and you'll also be able to see the recording in the success. We'll also be mailing you the recording after this webinar. Hope I answered your question, Rita. We still have some more time for questions. You're welcome, Rita. Okay, I guess questions have ceased. Thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for joining the call.
Thank you, everyone.
See you during the next Tech Tuesdays. Bye.